Hello, dear students, and welcome to this first impressions of the essay paper for UPSC Mains 2023. I'm sure you all have been waiting with bated breath to get the first look of the essay paper for this particular year. No doubt, essay occupies a very crucial position when it comes to the civil services main examination. 250 marks is a really big quantum, guys. Moreover, if you see the trend of marks in essay over the recent years, it becomes all the more significant. Over the recent years, we have seen that the bell curve of essay scores has flattened out, and that has created opportunity for getting more leverage over the competition. A good score could fetch you around 140, 145 marks also potentially, and if essay does not go well, it can get you below 100 also. So therefore, essay has the potential of making or breaking your attempt. In that context, it really is a very significant paper. Today at 3 p.m., we are going to have a detailed discussion on the topics that have been asked this year. But before that, to satisfy your curiosity, let us now have a quick look at the topics that have been asked this year and what is the first impression that we can garner from this year's paper. Now, a serious UPSC aspirant worth his salt knows that over the recent years, UPSC has shown the inclination of asking philosophical or quote-based essays. And this year also, the trend does continue with slight change, with a little bit of aberration as well. Like every year, this year also, essay paper has two sections, Section A and Section B. Both the sections, like again every year, have 4 topics that we are supposed to see. Okay, so we have 4 topics that we are supposed to see, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And out of that, we have to select one topic for writing our essay. In all, we are going to write 2 essays for 125 marks each. Now, let us quickly have a look at the topics that have been asked this year. The first topic that has been asked is, thinking is like a game. It does not begin unless there is an opposite team. So this is also like a, abstract or code-based kind of a topic, which UPSC has been asking over recent years. Now, you may wonder why UPSC has been asking these sort of topics, guys. Over the recent years, as internet and social media reach has expanded exponentially, getting access to good quality content has not remained that sort of a challenge now. And therefore, the level of competition in the civil services examination has also enhanced tremendously. Now, every serious aspirant appearing for mains does have solid content to reproduce in the paper. The challenge, therefore, is to discern or find out those candidates who have a good, robust thought process. And what better way than asking these kind of topics in the essay paper? And consequently, we see this, guys. Philosophical or code-based topics give you the opportunity to represent the kind of thought process that you have on the paper. It shows how you can extract the wisdom from such topics and connect it with our contemporary times. It reflects your, critical and analytical thinking skills. It gives you the opportunity to demonstrate your creative expression. Now, in that sense, let us see some of the topics that UPSC has asked. Thinking is like a game. It does not begin unless there is an opposite team. In this topic, we have 2 major keywords. One is thinking and another is game. Thinking and game. Now, the relationship between the two is that unless there is an opposite team, this does not begin. So that is where we need to focus our arguments on. We first try to explain what is meant by thinking at a deeper level. What is meant by game at a deeper level? A game does not just necessarily mean a sport. It could mean any type of challenge. And this can happen, thinking can happen only when there is some opposite team, meaning there is some challenge, there is some hindrance, there is some obstruction in your way, only then this process is actually catalyzed, is what the wisdom of the topic is hinting at. Now we are supposed to take a stance whether this is the case or no. Now with philosophical topics, conventional wisdom type topics, generally we tend to agree with what the topic is saying with a little bit of nuance here and there. This topic is very much in that same mold and can be easily tackled, as we will see in our subsequent session. The second topic after this is visionary decision making happens at the intersection of intuition and logic. Visionary decision making happens at the intersection of intuition and logic. So one side of the essay is talking about visionary decisions, means big decisions that had a long-term impact on the individual, on the institution, on the nation, so on and so forth. And such decisions happen at an intersection point. Intersection of what? Two things: intuition and logic. When these two meet, that is where visionary decisions are taken. Take the case of establishment of ISRO. Just fresh out of the phase of colonialism, India or the then Prime Minister boldly started or established an institution which had a very big vision. Now, such vision can happen only when both logic and intuition intersect. So at that point of time, we needed logic, and the logic was that space race is going to heat up and control of space is going to give you disproportionate advantage in terms of technology, in terms of international relations, so on and so forth. So we have to do something about it. But the situation was very dire. The intuition of the leadership back then said that no, this is the time that we take initiative for this. So it was the intersection of both that intuition as well as logic that led to a visionary decision being made. This is what is the wisdom of the topic. It says both of them are relevant and important to take such decisions. You can give many examples, guys, at individual level, at national level, at international level. Take the example of Japan, for example. Japan in 1870 went through the Meiji Restoration. The Meiji Restoration, almost like overnight, transformed Japan from a feudal to a modern society. Now, they had been comfortably living in their feudal age, but then seeing what was happening with China next door, the Japanese realized that they have to quickly change, otherwise they will meet the same fate. But then there were a lot of naysayers that this is not possible. We have our own civilizational systems that we must rely on. But the leadership of Japan at that point of time made that visionary decision that transformed Japan into a major industrial power towards the end of the 19th century. It in fact becomes an imperial power. What is that? Intersection of both intuition and logic. We have to argue about this, guys. Third topic, not all who wander are lost. Not all who wander are lost is the topic. This topic is basically telling us that those people who wander, as in who go about in pursuit or search of different types of things and do not meet their goals necessarily, does not mean that they have been lost. This is the wisdom of the topic. This can be, substantiated with lives of so many great men. Gautam Buddha, he left the life of riches. He was a prince at the prime of his youth. With his family behind, he walks in the robes of a monk in search of something that was completely intangible. There was nobody to guide him to the right path, but he kept on wandering until he found nirvana and then went on to guide the world for centuries ever since. That is the wisdom of the topic, that those who wander, as in those who have gone ahead and pursued something but have not met it, does not necessarily mean that they are lost. That is the essence of this topic which we have to argue. Again, a very gettable or easy topic. Inspiration for creativity springs from the effort to look into the magical in the mundane. Inspiration for creativity springs from effort to look for the magical in the mundane. So whatever regular mundane things that are going on around us in our lives, lives of individuals, lives of nations, lives of companies, so on and so forth, if we have a close look at these things, then we get inspiration to create something very creative. There can be so many different types of examples that we can use to substantiate that yes, the mundane gives us that inspiration. One example is of a product which uses drums carrying water like wheels. You know, in different parts of Africa, women had to travel great distances to fetch water, and that water had to be fetched on their heads. Now this was having a very dire impact on their health, on their well-being. So a company developed a product which is a simple product. It does not have any hi-fi devices as such. It's just a basic mechanical product which uses a pitcher in the form of a wheel. So the women can fill that pitcher with water and drag it like a wheel to their places. So that was something mundane where women were every day traveling and going to fetch water, and inspiration was drawn from there to get something creative out of it. So creativity does not fall from the heaven, guys. Inspiration for that creativity actually lies very much around us only. It's just that we need to have that effort or that eye to look for it. So many different examples from individual, national, international level can be cited about this. So that is a ever relevant wisdom given in this topic. So these are the 4 topics, out of which you are supposed to select one and write an opinion piece, an argumentative, persuasive essay about it. So this is section A, guys, which is very much in line with the kind of topics that have been asked over the recent years. After this comes the section B. Section B has some more tangible topics which are connected with our various challenges, society, etc., society, economy, polity, so on and so forth. Take the first one. Girls are weighed down by restrictions, whereas boys with demands. So we have these two, genders in our society, and each one is facing a challenge of its own kind. Girls face restriction about education, restriction about travel, restriction about age of marriage, restriction about socializing, so on and so forth. Now, all these restrictions act like inhibitions on the fullest development or flourish of their personality. And consequently, they are not able to make the most of what they potentially could have made. While this is something very well acknowledged and accepted, there is also another side to the coin. And what is that? The other gender, boys too, face their own type of challenge. Boys are burdened by demands. There are very high set expectations from boys. They are expected to be, caregivers. They are expected to be the breadwinners. They are expected to be emotionally very strong. They are expected to react a certain way in certain situations. And all of these demands also put burden on boys. And consequently, they too suffer from deprivement in terms of fullest development of their personality. The topic further says that both of these are equally harmful disciplines. Both of them are what? Equally harmful disciplines. So you have an opportunity over here to argue whether you agree with this or no. Now the grim reality is that yes, girls face these problems and so do boys. The topic is slightly leaving it open-ended that you may bring a nuanced perspective into it. In my view, both definitely suffer, but the girls slightly more. So therefore, I would, qualify it that although there are debilitating restrictions on both through these means, but then the problems or challenges faced by girls are, slightly on the higher side. This is what I will, posit in an essay of this topic. After this is the next topic, which is mathematics is the music of reason. Now, this is a slightly difficult topic. It is comparing mathematics to music in the field of reason. Now, what is music? What is reason? What is mathematics? We'll have to first exfoliate the characteristics of these things and then try to find out how in the field of reason mathematics actually functions exactly like music does in art. What does music do in art? Music provides creativity. Music has patterns. Music has instruments. Music entertains, regales. So, can we try to impute these kind of ideas when it comes to mathematics in the field of reason? Is what is the challenge of this essay. Definitely, of all the essays thus far, this is an essay that requires some higher order skills. Next is, a society that has more justice is a society that needs less charity. So this is a conventional kind of a debate that we have been studying about in our books of polity, economy, so on and so forth. Societies where there is justice, which means there is equality of opportunity in all walks of life. Every individual is sufficiently empowered to make the most of the valuable gift of life. Such a society will require less charity. Okay, so charity is just another means to basically mask the lack of justice in a society, is what it is trying to say. So instead of actually relying on methods of charity, we should rather focus and work on giving a society that is based on justice. That is the essence that this topic tries to present before us. Lastly, education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school. This is a quote I'm sure you might have come across earlier also. This quote tries to bring out the essence of education as something that goes beyond your academic learnings. Education is not just about your knowledge or the skills that you acquire to become a good professional in life. Instead, education is more about values, ethics, morals, wisdom, all of these higher things which you derive from that process. Now, the essence of learning is basically to acquire this. And therefore, in the process, one does end up forgetting what one had studied in schools. And schools here does not mean just your high schools. It could also mean your universities and institutions of higher learning. So whatever factuality, whatever practical dimensions one acquires over there, one may end up forgetting that. But even then, what remains, the residue that remains, is the values, the wisdom that one acquires, and that is what is actually education, is what the topic says. So a host of interesting topics, guys, asked by UPSC. We are going to take up a detailed discussion of all of these topics at 3 p.m. Do join us again in that live. I'll see you in that session, guys. Take care.